Okay, so today we're going to take a look at USGS stream gauges. And I think USGS stands for United States Geological Survey. I've never bothered to learn, even though I can tell you everything about stream gauges now. Um, so I've seen these antennas all over the place in my neck of the woods, and they used to drive me crazy because they'll be out in the middle of nowhere. You'll be out hiking on a trail by a creek, or you'll be out biking on a trail somewhere, and out of the middle of nowhere, you'll see this antenna that is just either pointing out to the sky, and it'll usually be a yagi or a cross yagi, or it'll just be pointing off into the distance, and it'd drive me nuts because I'd say, why are these antennas just out here in the middle of nowhere? Right next to this river, just pointing up to the sky. No clue. So there's actually the closest one to my house. I can actually pick up on good days, and we will try to pick it up. And it broadcasts every 15 minutes. So there's a broadcast coming up here in 10 minutes. And to give you an idea of what it looks like, this is Omaha. So it's right by this creek. It's this thing right here. So if you Google USGS stream gauge, so this antenna here is about 1 mile from my house. That's a good view of it. You can tell from the length of these bars on this yagi, this vertical yagi, that the frequency range is probably in the 100 to 200s because they're so big. And this tower right here is probably about 10 feet, this right here. And up on the top, I think this collects rain. And every time a certain amount of rain will tip, like collect, it will tip, and it will also send a signal. But also this one sends a signal every 15 minutes. So this is about 1 mile from my house. It is facing the opposite direction of my house, but I can still get a signal from being the opposite way. If I close this. So if you Google USGS stream gauge, and they spell gauge differently than I would. It's G-A-G-E. That was an example of a, just a vertical yagi that broadcasts around the 170 range. Another example that I see around is these cross yagis, and they are broadcasting to the GOES satellites. And they will broadcast some broadcast every 15 minutes. There's one around here that broadcasts every 15 minutes. Some broadcast every hour, some broadcast every 4 hours. I haven't messed around with these a lot because they're so far from my house. With the ones with the vertical yagis, like I just showed you, I was able to decode those. And most of the credit goes to this Chris Parker. So I saw this on the RTL-SDR blog about receiving urban drainage and flood control weather sensors. And I was like, oh, this looks pretty much like the antenna right by my house. This is the best way to decode it. And unfortunately, after doing a lot of digging, if you go to his website, it's out of commission. So his screen name was cparkers, so I think I just did cparker again as a Google search. And his GitHub. And luckily his GitHub is still up. And he still has the project up for these, what we call them weather stations in his thing. Because I was like, he has the frequency here, which is different. This is all in Colorado. His is a little bit different than out here. Mine are at 170. His are at 169. And I'll show how I found this out. And it sounds like these antennas here are run by maybe like a proprietary company or something, a private company, but the stream gauges I'm talking about are run by the United States. It's your taxpayer money paying for them. So luckily his GitHub was still up, and after going through here, he has this radio receiver.sh, which is the command line to run mini modem to do the decoding. And this saved me a lot of work. So I'm like, that's how he does the decode. And I think the first few times I tried this, after I found the frequency of my yagi, it was not working exactly. And that usually happens every time I try something the first time. And one of my questions with mini modem was, how did he get these parameters here? It was driving me nuts. So I made a lot of recordings of signals and was looking at them in Audacity and trying to figure out, like, where did he figure out these marks and spacings and whatnot, and trying to figure out why the program wasn't working. So I did a lot of extreme searching, you know, using terms like USGS alert, 300 BPS, because I know it's 300 BPS, Streamgage, things like that. And just doing this search right now for this video came up with a pretty cool PDF that has 60 pages. Yeah, the USGS gives there's a lot of information out there if you search and dig about their Streamgage system that's all over the country. You know, here's some pictures of just stuff that you'll see on bridges. Here's one, there's a cross yagi here that's just shooting up to the GOES. And I'll do another video about the ones that connect to the GO satellites. Right now I'm just worried about that vertical yagi. So, which should be broadcasting in about 4 minutes. So I won't go too far into the decode. The way I found the frequency was I just did the FCC General Mental Reports, and I went to their site market frequency, and I just did to states. You just pick your state, and then I narrowed it down to my county. And then from there, I just knew that the frequency was somewhere between, you know, 150 and, you know, 200. We'll say 300 just based on the antenna size. And then doing a search like that, you submit your query, wait a few seconds, and the results will look like that. And just scrolling through this page on a boring night, I eventually found here we go. It's these Papio, Missouri River Natural District. And you'll have these site numbers, site 17, site 16. And then this will also be the frequency. And just looking at these coordinates and the addresses, I was able to determine, oh, yep, that's that antenna right by my house. And here was the frequency 170.275. So that narrowed down the frequency of that antenna that was near me. Another way to do it, I will show. Shoot, that antenna's coming up. So this is how I originally got the frequency number, was from doing here. So for Chris Parker, his was 169, mine is 170.275. So I'm on Linux today, and we're going to, because I wanted to run mini modem, I don't know if mini modem can run on Windows. So hold on a second. So I'm going to open up dual windows here. So first I'm going to, just from that Chris Parker's GitHub, I'm basically taking this command. I'm extracting his wrapper. I'm not using this wrapper that he wrote. I'm using minimum, and the only thing I'm really changing is the frequency. I'm not changing the ppm, and I'm not changing the other thing, some other parameters. I'll get to it in a second because I have. So this is basically his command, and I will stretch this out. Oh shoot. So that's running. I also have my scanner running, so that should hit the thing. And I'll try to get GQRX running too. Oh. Shoot. So this is using device 0, which is serial number 2. So this needs to use number 1. $70. 2, 7, 5. Hopefully this will work. Any second now. Ah, that's horrible. I got the little blip down here and absolutely no decode. Oh, not cool. I could wait another 15 minutes. This video would drag out, but I can go into again how I was able to get those frequencies and why did I get such poor reception. I had to change the gain earlier when I like I said, sometimes it's good days and sometimes it's bad days. I don't have to be outside to do this video. But anyways, going back to this FCC search, I was able to find this. But then going back, if you do search USGS and this thing for your weather data, it would bring you to, you would just go, if you go to the main website, I'll show you how you can find out where these gauges are and how you can, if you have an idea of where they are, this helps narrow down how often they transmit. I'm in Nebraska. So for, I think I can use the mouse and get to SARPy. Actually, they have a geographic area. We want to use the mapper. Oh, and press the go button. And this will bring up all your state information. And a lot of these sites aren't stream gauges, they're just places where they've done water testing or they've done, there's a well, things like that. But this is the site that I showed on Google Maps. And we'll click that and we will access the data. And what these stream gauges do is they measure just how high the stream is, whether it's going to flood. So once this will bring me to this page, and then you just have to go exploring with these tabs. I find that this time series is probably the most valuable time series. You could go. And you can change what dates you want and such, like here, and you'll get this pretty graphs of what days. We've had a lot of rain this week. So you'll see that this is precipitation. That sensor has two things on it. It has a precipitation sensor. It transmits 2 packets of data, one for the level of the creek and one for how much precipitation. Here's the creek discharge. And we've had rain on different nights, so it goes bloop, up and down, up and down. Again, up and down. Here's the gauge height, which is just the same. And they run it through a formula and get the discharge rate. So to figure out how often this happens, you want to go to tables, what I do, and then you go to go. And you scroll down and you'll see that it's in increments of just from these numbers. The time series isn't wrong. You look at how often it's doing data, and it's doing data every 15 minutes, it looks like. But that can be deceiving, even though it might show that it's doing it every 15 minutes. Here it's doing it every, looks like 3 minutes or something. It's either because the stream level was going up or because it was raining. Because I think when it rains, there's a little bucket that tips, and every time that bucket tips, it will broadcast. Or it just broadcasts every time this goes up by a certain increment, the gauge height. So, but you want to go all the way to the bottom to see how often it broadcasts, because it's pretty updated. So the last broadcast was at 346. That's the one I just tried to get. And what will happen is if you're trying to look at another one, you might look at this and it will show that the last broadcast was with like almost an hour ago. So that would mean that the thing only broadcasts an hour. But even though it broadcasts an hour ago, you still won't see 15-minute increments. And what it does is it broadcasts, a whole, big bunch of packets for all those different time series. It just records them and then broadcasts them, which is once an hour. So that's how I figure out how often it's broadcasting. The satellite ones usually broadcast about every hour. So, given that, there's another one coming up in about 10 minutes. I would have to be outside to do this. And the way I've done it outside is, well, to give you an idea of what the decode looks like when I was running mini modem. So this is the command I was running that didn't give me anything from that signal that was so faint. If I run it again and I just set the gain to auto, because right now I have the gain set to 30. It will give you an idea of what the output looks like. It's just the interference from this will look like what the output's going to look like. So you'll see these ones and zeros popping up like that. And this is what the output of mini modem looks like with the parameters I have set from cparkers page and whatnot. Now, going back to earlier, I was talking about how, oh, this drove me crazy how I got these parameters for mini modem. I'm like, how did I get these spacings and whatnot? The baud rate, I could probably figure out from using Audacity, but these other parameters like the mark and the 2133, that's such an odd random number. I don't know who comes up with that. So I thought, and I was also trying to figure out why this wasn't working in the beginning. So after a lot of digging, you go through these PDFs and whatnot, how these stream gauges work, and you have to change your search strings and whatnot. And eventually I came upon, this is page 71. I came upon something that's National Weather Service Manual, and this is Flood Warning Systems Manual. And it's, Department of Commerce, NOAA, National Weather Service, and I think USGS is mentioned in here. But eventually in their appendix, they talk about the alert protocol, which is what the stream gauges with the vertical yagis use. I'm pretty sure if it has a cross yagi, it means it's broadcasting to a satellite. It does not use alert protocol. So getting down to the appendixes, bam, alert format, and it tells everything. The speed, actually, they still might use alert protocol now that I think about it for the satellites, because these vertical yagis, here you go, broadcast at 300, and then here's your spacing for the 190 and 2133. So here's the parameters for mini modem. Here's that 169 to 171. So if it's just a straight vertical yagi, it would probably broadcast in this range. I think if it's a satellite uplink, the GOES satellites, the uplinks, I know of broadcasting like the 401 to 402 range. And I know that they do it at 1200 baud, but the protocol is different. It's like a QPSK or something, but this is the frequency that it'd be close to, so I'll have to try this later on. But this is something I have to do in the field because I cannot do this from my house. And then it just talks about the decode. And I think C. Parker wrote a script to do the decode, but the only way to understand if the script is working is to manually understand how this works. So you'll broadcast 2 packets of data. Well, no, one packet looks like this, and it's hard to decode by hand. The antenna right by my house broadcasts 2 packets. I think one for the amount of precipitation, like how many times the water bucket is tipped, and also what the level of the stream is. But one packet to decrypt it, to decode it, like I showed when I was running mini modem earlier, you'll get these packets like this. So if I'm out by the stream, you'll get these things running mini modem. And how I run it out in the field is I just carry I use a Raspberry Pi, and then I just hook a USB battery up to it, and then I hotspot it with my phone. I have another Android, and I hotspot it with my phone, and then I SSH in with my phone, and basically everything you're seeing on this monitor, I would be seeing on my phone, and I would get these packets once it broadcasted. And to decode them, I would have to do a piece of paper where I'm not going to go into much detail. I can just post a link or what the search term was I used to get to the this document. So for one packet of data, and it talks about it up here, you have to really read in detail about this and kind of read it once or twice. The first part of the data is an address, which is the address of the stream gauge, and the other part is the data itself, like what the level of the stream is, these Ds. And to decode it, you have to literally this is all transmitted in reverse, so you have to write it down in reverse. I have to do it on paper, write it down, and then the 10s, those 2 10s and these 2 11s at the end, you have to those are just part of the protocol, and you don't really examine those. You cut those off. And then if you see, I've had to label where the A0, A1, A2, that starts up here at the top. And then down here starts with the D0, D1, D2, D3, D4. And that's how the protocol gets decoded there. You see the D4 is there. So it's all reversed. There's those 2 10s I showed you that get cut off. And then there's the 2 11s. So it's the way see how it goes start. And then, so you get the start of the signal, and then there's your first bit, second bit, all the different bits, etc., and then the stop bit. So that's alert protocol for you, or IFLOWS is what they call it. And again, the document, how I did this, and it's just that one page that has all this decode for it. And that's how, I'm assuming C. Parker, this format, this documentation, it might be other documents, but that's how he was able to do this decode. Okay, so another signal's coming up. I'm going to try it this time. I find that Windows works a lot better. Is GQR still working? Okay, so this time I'll set the gain to 35. So this makes this a 25-minute video. Gain 35. First we'll try it out. Alright, so I got mini modem. Well, I'll try 40 too. Okay, that's cool. And then it should be using number 1. Oh, there it is. And let's see if it decoded. Nope, no decode. I'm pretty sure that was the signal. There's another one that broadcasts a few minutes later, but yeah, it's too weak for my house. I'd have to do it out in the field. I'd have to be out on the bike trail out there and make a video where you have to like watch them, watch the phone and watch the zeros and ones come up on here. But when they come up, they would look like, because it broadcasts the 2 packets, this is what a whole capture looked like, you know. And this is me trying to decode it from one of the times. And then you have to get these numbers, and then one of them doesn't, this one doesn't make that much sense because it never relates to what is on the web page at USGS. This 10.70, it won't come out to that. This number has to get run through a formula before they can. So, sorry I couldn't do a decode, but that's what it's like. If I did, I'll be outside. And again, with my Raspberry Pi, I don't have a battery nearby. I use the Anchor batteries, which are pretty good. And yeah, I think that's it. Finding the cparkers code is pretty easy, and then yeah, finding the frequencies is pretty easy. Just do an FCC search for that 160, and the USGS site, just use their mapper like I showed. So I think it's pretty easy to follow. So again, sorry for no decode. The next time you do see me, I will do it out in the field for USGS, because I have to either show decode for that antenna by my house with this, or I want to do a video for one of the satellite uplink ones to show what that signal looks like, which is usually in the 400 range. And the way I found that signal was, I think it's meteorological satellite frequencies. I'm spelling it all wrong. Sure. And it sometimes is, yep, it was the first link when I just Googled satellite range, and it will bring up so if you're out on the trails by a stream or a trail and you see one of those antennas and it's pointed to the sky, it's a cross yagi. And the reason it's a cross yagi is because it's a circular signal, because these satellites are spinning. And it's the GOES, no, it's not GOES 16. The ones around here go to GOES West, so it's GOES 13. But even the new GOES satellite that they just launched, still uses the same style of uplinks. And what the uplinks are, they use this band, this DCPR, and the DCPR I think stands for Data Control Point or something. SAR, I know that stands for Search and Rescue, but DCPR is what you're interested in. You're interested in uplink. And here's the frequency here is this 401 to 402. And so like on a scanner, if I'm out and about just trying to see if that's really legit, the frequency, I will just program it to 401.7 to 402.4. And then as you can see from this site, here's the different speeds and modulations. There's an 8 PSK. Here's the bandwidth and all that, whatnot. But this is the frequency, and these frequencies are legit. It sounds different than what you just heard, barely heard on this video. But so the next time I do a Streamgage video will be outside or in the car, I guess. Hopefully outside because the weather's nice. I'm just hoping that the video will look like this, or I'll have to have my laptop and make sure there's no sun glare. I'm not optimistic. So yeah, the next video will be out GOES 13. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and that's how I was able to, I guess, get to the gist of what Chris Parker, C. Parker, did. I give him most of the credit, but these are just the finer details, I guess, and potential videos in the future, because these ghost satellites are pretty cool. Thanks for watching. Sorry, sorry to know there's no decode.